Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are in episode 47 of Saved You a Seat. Today, we are going to cover 1099-S filing, mid-year prep, everybody's favorite subject. I see we have a lot of people still coming in, so that's great. Obviously, this is a very timely episode. And we have a great speaker for you today. And before I turn it over to her and introduce Patsy, just a little bit of housekeeping. Per usual, we will be recording these. You will get a copy with a link, or an email, sorry, with a link to the recording in a day or two, some point this week, so that you can have access to it. You're welcome to share it amongst your coworkers or use it however you need. If you happen to have any questions as we're going through, there is a questions feature either on the top or the left or the right, wherever your box of information from GoToWebinar is, there's a question drop down you can click on. Feel free to send us any questions. Patsy will try and get to as many as she can throughout or at the end of the webinar. If by chance we don't get to your question, we can certainly follow up with you offline. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Patsy Epperson, who is our senior business consultant at SoftPro. She's wonderful at consulting and helping people become more efficient. If anybody is interested in that, you're also welcome to reach out with that. But with that, Patsy, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you do your thing.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's topic is 1099-S filing mid-year prep. So what we're going to talk about is just how do I double check and make sure things are flowing through, files are getting reported, what kind of condition is my 1099 program in? We're going to start out with a little bit of background basic information. So in your management console, you want to make sure that your profile is set up correctly so that when you do start pulling your reports and want to do your reporting, everything's associated properly. So in your profile, when you go to your Properties tab, under 1099 tab, you want to make sure the screen is completed. You want to have your tax ID number, your TCC number, your company name, address, etc. So you want to make sure that this information is set up in the profile. One other thing that you want to take a look at is on the Other tab. When you're here, you've got three filters here. You've got your visibility filter, your access filter, and then your orders created as. This is the one that is so important for the 1099 side. Your orders created as you see in my case, I have it set to this profile, Georgia, and it has the 1099 screen completed. If I had my orders created as Georgia and that 1099 screen was blank, when I would go to run my 1099s on that profile, I would not get information because I don't have it filled out. So make sure that your orders created as is set to your profile and that the 1099 information is populated as well. So we want to make sure that that piece has been set up. And if you've been doing this for a while, that's probably not an issue for you. But if anyone's on here that's kind of new, you might want to take a look and be sure that that information's in there. So I've opened up an order to kind of give you a few pieces of information. So how does an order get into the 1099? You've heard many times, I'm sure, that one of the great things about Select is the Under One Roof program. So what that means is, here's my Pro 1099, but I don't have to go there to create my records. In my order, there's certain criteria that once that criteria is met, it's going to automatically export to that 1099 program. Those pieces of information are, is it a purchase order? Is there a sales price? Is there a seller? And is my settlement date today or prior to today? When I meet those criteria, the software is automatically going to create that 1099 report for you. It's pretty cool. I like it. Now, there are some other things that come into play. If your file's canceled or on hold, something of that means it's not going to push that file out. But those are your basic pieces that once those criteria are met, and all 4 of those have to be met, then it will actually push that over to our 1099 program. So once we know we've got the proper information in there, there's some reports. And actually, I'm going to back up for just a moment. I want to make sure, has everyone reapplied for your TCC number? That has been an issue this year. If you have not already reapplied for your TCC code, you're going to need to go to the IRS and apply for your TCC number. They've made some changes in the system. There was a period that you could reapply and get that same TCC number, but that's now expired. So if you haven't gotten a TCC code, go ahead and do that. And you can call the IRS to talk about it if you want to. If you got a pen and paper, the IRS number is 866-455-7438. And the other thing that you want to do is test your login for the IRS FIRE site. That's really important. You don't want to wait until you're getting ready to file and that be the very first time you've tried to hit the FIRE site. So go test your login. Make sure you can get login. You don't have to submit anything. You can just get in there and test it and make sure you've got that connection. Everything's lined up. You've got your login. Make sure you've got all of that information in place before we get down to the end of the line here. Okay, there's my housekeeping. So now I'll back up. So once you get to this point, one of the things that we recommend you do is run your exception report on a regular basis. Now, if according to the size of your company, you may want to run it every month, every 2 weeks. If you're a larger company or a smaller company, maybe quarterly. But do not wait until the end of the year to run that exception report, because I'm going to tell you, it is so much easier to go back and get that seller's Social Security number when they had a closing in January if you're calling them in February to get it. If you're calling him in December, good luck. So run that exception report, and it's really easy to do. So if you go up here to your Pro 1099 tab, and you have your reports icon on the ribbon. Once we click that, the reports list pops up here on the left-hand side. So the exceptions report right here is the first one we want to run. Now, to save a little bit of time for us, what I've done is I've run those reports and I've got them already over here so we don't have to go through the criteria and wait for everything to render. So our basic exceptions report, when you run that report, you're going to see any file that has missing information. So I know this specific file, the Mopi Reynolds, is missing the tax ID, the forwarding address, city, state, zip, and the 1099-S has not been provided or signed. Now, that piece right there is coming from, if you go into your seller proceeds and 1099-S, that's these 2 little boxes right here. Even though those don't actually get reported to the IRS, it still needs to be checked that it has been done, because as you saw, it's going to show up on this report if it's not. And you want this report to come back completely empty before you file your reports to the FIRE site. So this is one of the things you want to make sure your users know. Hey, make sure those boxes are checked in the appropriate files. So you would take this report, go into these orders, and clean up all of this information. Now, not every file has all of it missing, obviously. This file looks like it's just missing the state and zip. It's not missing the forwarding address or city. This one's just missing the tax ID. state and zip and all, it's in this one. It's just missing my tax ID. And of course, that those boxes aren't checked. So this is your first line of defense. You want to run this report on a regular basis, okay? Now we do have another report, and that's the exceptions in the supplemental list. This report gives you more criteria that you can filter by. So notice you can group it by escrow officer. You can choose an escrow officer to run this by. The benefit of this is you can run this for Connie and then give Connie that printed report and say, hey, I need you to clean up these files. So it gives you the ability to filter it down a little bit more when you're doing that maintenance piece throughout the year. But do not use this report as your final check for the end of the year, because filter settings could impact that report and it might come back clean based on the filter settings, but yet there could be some files that are sitting out there that do need corrections on them. So to help prevent you from running into any issues with that, do not use the supplemental report as the report you run at the end of the year, okay? So then we have a couple of other reports, or more than a couple, that you can utilize throughout the year to kind of follow up and make sure everything's going in cleanly. One example is the duplicate record listing. On this report, as you'll see, I have one return. It's got tax ID number, gross proceeds, etc. And then here it is again, the same report with the same tax ID. And this is one of the things that you're going to want to watch out for. It's looking for the order number to be the same and the tax ID number to be the same. So you'll want to check this duplicate record listing to follow up and make sure you don't have any duplicate records. Another report is the record listing. The record listing is used to review all of the files that exist in the program. So you can go through this and you see this is the information that is going to push out. My tax ID number is missing. My address is missing. So these are things, this report is just a really, really big picture of what you have in your 1099 program. Okay. Then we have missing and orphaned, sorry about that, records. And what this is this is showing me there's a pro form order does not have an associated 1099 record. So it's showing me that the record may have been created in the Pro 1099, but there's no matching order, or it could have been deleted in the 1099, so I have an order, but no record, okay? So this kind of lets you make sure that you're matching apples to apples. And then our 1099 and pro form variances report. What happens here, you'll see I have this order and the field is the address field. It tells you right here what's different between the pro form order and the 1099 record. Well, in this case, it's the address. So in pro form, my address was 20112 West Coast Highway, but in Pro 1099, it's 22115 West Coastal Highway. Someone has manually changed this street number in Pro 1099. So this gives you a warning that, hey, you've got some variances. You don't want to report this to the 1099 with this number if that's not correct. You want to make sure that these two files match, okay? So those are our reports that are available. And as you can see, you can go in here very detailed. You can get in, find out the information that's out there that's in your reports, and make sure that you're getting the information that you need. So when you run that exceptions report, let's say, for example, you run it for the escrow officers, the supplemental, and you pass it out. Give them a week, 2 weeks, whatever the case may be, go run it again. See, has it been cleaned up? You don't want to just run it, say, hey, we need to get these fixed, and then just move on. And then second quarter of the year comes around, you run it again, and all of those from the first are still on there. So after you run it, everybody gets it cleaned up, run that report again. You want to see an empty report. Nothing has come back on it yet. One of the things you guys might be wondering is, when is our update going to be ready for 2023? We expect by the end of December, we'll be able to have that update ready. The IRS has not sent out the 1220 publication yet, and the team has to have that publication to make sure that they're matching, again, apples to apples before we can put the update out. So be on the lookout for that to come out around the end of December, but that does not mean you cannot go ahead and be keeping on top of everything. Run these reports, run these reports, run these reports. I cannot say that enough. There is nothing like getting down to the end of the year and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I haven't done this. So now you go run them and you have 28 pages of exceptions. So pretty much dependent on this piece, running those reports. Leslie, I went through that faster than I thought I would.
That's okay. We have some questions. So first off, the first question says, somebody's asked how you get to the management console.
You have to have permission to SP admin, and it's on the SP admin tab under the configuration on the ribbon down to profiles under security. You will not see all of this. This is my demo database, and I've got all kinds of stuff set up for customers. But you'll just see whatever profiles you have set up. You may have one profile, you may have 5 based on the size of your company, but you locate your profile, and in your profile, once you highlight it, you right-click Properties. That's then going to bring you to those settings. So it's permission to access SP admin, configuration, profiles, locate your profile, right-click Properties, and the 1099 tab. Make sure that's completed, and you should be good to go.
Great. Okay, so the next question we have, someone said, we were instructed to get a new TCC number, which I know you mentioned. We did so, and I'm just wondering if there are any other updating in I can't read. Other than updating SoftPro with the new TCC number, is there anything else that they need to do to make sure they're good to go?
Make sure that your profile has that new TCC number. That's going to be your biggest thing. And then when our update comes out for 2023, you'll want to make sure that you install that update. And if you run into any problems or questions with that, don't ever hesitate to call our support desk. They're there to help you and walk you through this.
Okay, one we answered, but I am going to just go ahead and read it so everybody knows. Someone asked if this was a webinar for select users only, and I just want to clarify that yes, we are showing it within select, but the exceptions report is the same between all editions of SoftPro, and so basically all the information is the same. Your screen might look a little bit different in a different version, but it all works the same. Okay. Someone else asked, she actually shared a hop off and it said it would be helpful to know. Oh, never mind. I answered that question. She was worried it wasn't for select. Sorry. Why does the missing and orphan report pick up files with an order and/or escrow status of in process?
Let's see. So our missing and orphaned records? That is a very good question. So that is, well, first off, did the file meet all of those 4 criteria? Is it a purchase? Do you have a seller? Do you have a sales price? And is there a settlement date in that order of today or earlier? That's what's creating that. Okay, there is a setting here in the management console when we go in to the properties. There is a setting right here that says export only escrow closed orders. Now, that sounds like a great choice, and it is a great choice if you have procedures in place that make sure that that escrow status goes to closed when the file is dispersed. Now, there are some profile settings that will do that. If you look under accounting, there's a profile setting for automatic close of escrow when criteria is met, and that can either be all funds are posted or revenue is posted. If this is in place and your users you don't have to be concerned about your users going to the escrow status section and changing that status, then that could work for you, that you only export closed orders. But if you do not have a secure procedure in place to make sure that all of your files that close do have an escrow status of closed, you run the potential of a file not getting exported that should have been exported. And then your returns are going to be, you're going to be missing that return. So be careful about that. One of the things that we also recommend is if your file does not close for whatever reason, if there's a settlement date in there, take it out. Take that settlement date out. If your file cancels, let's take that settlement date out. And we do have an automation process that will do that for you. So if anyone's interested in knowing more about that automation process, again, check with our support team. They're happy to help you with these kinds of things, but that is something that you do want to watch is, are those 4 criteria met? And if they are, and that file is still just sitting there, it potentially is going to get exported to the 1099 program.
I think you answered the next question after this, but real quick, somebody mentioned they don't have all these report settings or profile settings, and how do they get them?
That's kind of an open question. Yeah, are you talking about this section? If you are in Select and you're in Admin under Profiles, all of this is there. You may not have permission to open this up. And as I mentioned before, you're not going to see this much stuff. This is my local install that I use for working with customers all over this country. So I've got all kinds of stuff in here that you're not going to see. You're only going to see the profiles that are available to you.
Okay.
And don't forget,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I just want to reemphasize, you have to have permission to this SP admin for the tab to even show. That tab's not going to be there if you don't have permission. And if you do have permission to it, you also will have to have permission to these other sections as well. It is possible that you could have permission to SP admin and potentially only have permission to the lookup tables. Maybe you help out with the lookup tables. So you might have permission to the lookup tables, but you don't have permission to anything else. So it's very permission based. That's why I said that's kind of an open-ended question there.
Got it. And is it the same across all versions? I know the look will be different, but it's still going to be permission based just within SP admin, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure you answered this, but it says that they run the report because they're trying to clean up things, and they were just wondering what triggered their files because they've got canceled orders that are still appearing, but it sounds like they need to go in and remove that settlement date from what you were saying, and that would remove it from there.
That's an important piece right there. We find that if your files don't go through and close, get that settlement date out of there. And having it checked as estimated does not affect it. So don't
Okay.
think just because it's marked estimated that it's not going to export, because that has no effect on it whatsoever. It's what you've got right here. It's these 4 pieces. So the easiest thing, get that settlement date out of there.
Got it. Okay. Someone else said they applied. So if they applied for the new TCC before the deadline, they're okay, right? They can still use that number.
If they reapplied and got the same TCC, then yes, they're good.
Got it. Okay. Is there a way to pull the supplemental report based off an escrow assistant rather than an escrow officer?
There is not.
Okay.
It's based on the escrow officer. And I'll pull those criteria up for you here.
Now, Patsy, this is like the next level of that, but could they get a custom report that they could pull that from?
Yeah, they should be able to get a custom report. See, it's going to look right here to escrow officer.
Okay, so the answer is as is, out of the box, no, it pulls from escrow officer. But if it's
Yes.
something that you need and you need it to pull from escrow assistant, you can contact our documents and reports team at SoftPro or your sales rep, and they can work with you in getting a custom report where they can pull it from a different field. So based on whatever your criteria is.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Gosh, we have good questions in here. I missed the deadline to get a new TCC number. Are there any written instructions on how to get my new TCC number? Calling the IRS has not worked thus far. It should be on their webpage, but I'll let Patsy answer.
Yeah, this is strictly between you and the IRS. SoftPro honestly has nothing to do with it. So it's call the IRS or go to, I think it's irs.gov. I think that's
Right.
one of those 2. That's the only way you're going to be able to get to it.
Okay. Let's see. What should you do for foreign sellers that don't have a taxpayer ID number? Can you get this off the exception report?
I would actually have to check on that.
Okay.
I apologize. I need to check on that.
No, don't apologize. We'll always just, we can check with Eileen on that.
Okay.
Okay. Is the missing and orphan report found within the Pro 1099 tab or under reports?
Under the reports, it's under the Pro 1099 reports. It's that last one in the list under the default.
All right, so within Proform, they go to reports and then go to 1099. They don't need to be in their
It's the
1099.
1099 report set.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's on it's the report set on the 1099 tab.
Got it. Okay, I think that answers that. Is there a way to tell if the TCC has been reapplied?
IRS.gov.
Yeah, right.
That's
And then this person, and this might
there.
be an IRS question as well, but I'll ask you anyway. Can I have a separate TCC number for the title company owned by a law firm?
That's going to be an IRS question.
Yeah, that's just going to depend on how they file. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Patsy, you answered all the questions. We had some really good questions. We really appreciate you and
Awesome.
everybody's questions. So I think with that, we'll give you some time back. We knew this wouldn't be a full hour, but we wanted to at least get you the information and get you thinking about the 1099s and start cleaning it up and doing all that. And especially with the new TCC code requirements, we didn't want to wait till December to discuss this with everyone. So if anybody has any follow-up questions, or if you asked a question that we said we'd follow up with you, you can expect to hear from us. please go ahead and email myself or anybody at SoftPro. You can contact support, you can email me, and we will either answer or put you in touch with whomever can answer. And again, today I want to thank Patsy for helping us out. This is not my area of expertise, so I really appreciate your time and agreeing to do this for us. And a reminder, we're going to send up a follow-up email with a link to this recording, and we will send out the registration for the next Save USC. Believe it or not, I think it's going to be number 48. We're coming up on 50, which is crazy. But we appreciate you, we appreciate your time, and we appreciate you as customers. And with that, we hope you all have a great week. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.